The stars had never belonged to humanity. That was the first lesson the Galactic Council taught them 200 years ago, when the first human ship crossed into deep space and found itself surrounded by alien warships. Humanity had dreamed of the cosmos for thousands of years. They had imagined meeting other beings among the stars. They had not imagined kneeling before them. The Council was ancient. 12 species ruled the galaxy, and they had done so for 6,000 years. They called themselves the Arbiters of Peace. They called humanity a junior species, too young, too primitive, too dangerous to be trusted with freedom. Earth and 3 small colony worlds. That was all humanity was allowed. The rest of the galaxy was forbidden. Ambassador Kethra of the Valdaran hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the blue planet called Earth on his view screen. The Valdaran were the Council's enforcers. They were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms, and they had crushed rebellions across the galaxy for millennia. Kethra had never failed in his duty. The humans have 48 hours, he said to his officers. They will surrender the moon they call Europa, or we will take it from them. Europa was rich with minerals the Council wanted. Humanity had discovered the deposits first, but discovery meant nothing. Junior species did not own anything. They only borrowed what the Council allowed on Earth. Admiral Marcus Chun read the Valdaran ultimatum and felt something cold settle in his chest. He was 62 years old. He had served in the United Terran Defense Force for 40 years. He had watched humanity bow and scrape before alien masters his entire life. He had watched human ships be searched, human colonies be inspected, human people be treated like children who could not be trusted with sharp objects. He was tired of watching. Send our response, Chun told his communications officer. Europa belongs to humanity. We will not surrender it. The response reached Ambassador Kethra within the hour. He read it twice because he could not believe what he was seeing. In 6,000 years, no junior species had ever refused a Council demand. He actually laughed. These mammals are insane, he said. Send a message to the Council. Tell them we will handle this quickly. 3 days later, the cargo freighter Horizons Dream was traveling from Europa to Earth. It carried ice mined from the moon's surface and 3,000 civilians workers. Families, children returning home for the holidays. It was not a military ship. It had no weapons. It was not a threat to anyone. The Valdaran destroyed it anyway. Admiral Chun received the news in his office at midnight. He sat in silence for a long time, staring at the casualty report. 3,000 names. 3,000 people who had done nothing wrong except be born human in a galaxy that hated them. His hands were shaking when he finally spoke. Get me the president, he said, and get me the commanders of all orbital stations. It is time. For 50 years, humanity had kept a secret. The Council had banned certain weapons. They called them barbaric and uncivilized. Kinetic accelerant weapons were at the top of the list. Railguns, simple devices that use magnetic fields to fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The Council ships had energy shields that could stop laser fire and plasma bolts. They had never needed to stop a chunk of tungsten traveling at 3% of the speed of light. Hidden inside asteroid mining stations across the solar system, humanity had built railgun platforms in secret. They had prepared for a day they hoped would never come. That day had come. The Valdaran fleet moved toward Earth with the casual confidence of predators who had never known fear. 12 dreadnoughts, each one 3 kilometers long, each one capable of burning a continent. Ambassador Kethra stood on his bridge and watched the human defense fleet gather to meet him. Their ships were small and primitive. This would not even be a battle. It would be an execution. Open a channel, Kethra ordered. I want the humans to hear this. His image appeared on every screen in the solar system. "People of Earth," he said, "you have defied the Galactic Council. You have refused a lawful order. You have proven that your species cannot be trusted with even the small freedoms you were given. Your punishment will serve as an example to all junior species. Surrender now, and some of you may survive. Resist, and you will be erased from history." Admiral Chen's response was broadcast on the same channel. "This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the United Terran Defense Force, Ambassador. You murdered 3,000 innocent people. You called it maintaining order. We call it what it is, an act of war." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was cold. "You want to teach the galaxy a lesson? Let me teach you one first. Fire." Across the solar system, hidden platforms came to life. Magnetic coils charged with enough power to light a city. Tungsten rods, the size of cars, locked into firing chambers. And then, with a sound like thunder that no one could hear in the vacuum of space, the railguns fired. The first Valden dreadnought never saw what hit it. One moment, it was whole. The next moment, a tungsten rod punched through its shields like they were made of paper and tore through the ship from bow to stern. The dreadnought broke apart in a shower of fire and metal. The second and third dreadnoughts died seconds later. Ambassador Kethra watched his warships explode and could not understand what he was seeing. This was impossible. No one had weapons like this. No one would dare build weapons like this. "Retreat!" he screamed. "All ships retreat." The Valderan fleet fled. They left behind the burning wreckage of 3 dreadnoughts and the bodies of 30,000 crew members. They ran from primitive mammals who should have been easy prey. They ran, and the whole galaxy saw them run. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and cheered. They did not know what was coming. They did not understand that they had just painted a target on their entire species. The council met within hours. 12 high arbiters gathered in the Citadel of Accord at the center of the galaxy. They had not faced a real threat in thousands of years. They had grown comfortable. They had grown arrogant. And now, a species that should have been crushed centuries ago had embarrassed them in front of the entire galaxy. High Arbiter Zorvan was the oldest of them. He had lived for 400 years and had seen empires rise and fall. He looked at his fellow arbiters with cold eyes. "The humans have violated our most sacred laws," he said. "They have built forbidden weapons. They have attacked council ships. They have shown every junior species in the galaxy that defiance is possible." He stood, and his voice echoed through the chamber. "This cannot stand. We must make an example of them. Not punishment, extinction." The vote was unanimous. Zorvan sent the order that would mobilize the largest fleet in galactic history. Ships from 12 species would converge on human space. There would be no negotiation. There would be no mercy. "Burn their worlds," he commanded. "Leave nothing." The war for humanity's survival had begun. The sky above Earth burned for 7 months. The councils combined. Armada arrived with more ships than humanity had ever seen. Thousands of warships from 12 different species darkened the stars. They came with one purpose: to erase humanity from existence. Admiral Chen had known they were coming. He had prepared every defense he could. It was not enough that the orbital railgun platforms fought bravely. They destroyed hundreds of enemy ships before they fell. Human pilots flew into battle, knowing they would not return, and they took as many enemies with them as they could. For 7 months, Earth held. For 7 months, humanity showed the galaxy what courage looked like. But courage could not stop 10,000 warships. The orbital defenses fell one by one. The railgun platforms went silent. And then the bombardment began. New York, Beijing, Mumbai, London, Moscow, Snow, Polo. The great cities of Earth vanished under fire from orbit. 2 billion people died in the first week. The oceans boiled where plasma beams struck the water. Mountains crumbled. Forests burned. The planet that had given birth to humanity became a graveyard. Admiral Chun watched from the bridge of his flagship as his homeworld died. He had been born in Shanghai. His parents were buried there. His childhood home, his memories, everything he had known, all of it was gone now, reduced to ash and glass. "Admiral," his first officer said quietly, "we need to go. The fleet is waiting." Chun did not respond for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "Set course for the outer colonies. All ships that can still fly, follow us." He turned away from the view screen. He could not watch anymore. "We are not finished." Not yet. The survivors fled. They scattered across the solar system and beyond, hiding in places the Council would not think to look. Hollowed-out asteroids became secret bases. Ships that never stopped moving became floating cities. Humanity went underground, and the Council believed they had won. They were wrong. The war entered a new phase. Admiral Chun could not fight the Council directly. He did not have the ships or the firepower. So he fought a different kind of war. Guerrilla tactics. Hit-and-run attacks. Ambushes in debris fields where railguns could fire and vanish before the enemy could respond. Human engineers learned to hack. Alien computer systems. Human soldiers learned to fight in zero gravity. Human pilots became ghosts, appearing from nowhere, striking fast, and disappearing before anyone could catch them. The Council had expected humanity to surrender after Earth fell. Instead, humanity became more dangerous. The cost was terrible. For every Council ship destroyed, humanity lost dozens of good people. Resources ran low. Food was scarce. Medicine was scarcer. Children grew up in metal corridors that recycled the same air their grandparents had breathed. But they did not give up. They could not give up. Surrender meant extinction. 3 years into the war, something unexpected happened. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was a physicist who had worked at the University of Tokyo before the war. When Earth fell, she had escaped on a refugee ship with nothing but the clothes on her back and a mind full of equations. Now she worked in a secret research facility buried deep inside Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Her job was to study captured Council technology and find weaknesses humanity could exploit. The Council used a form of faster-than-light travel that humanity did not fully understand. Their ships could cross the galaxy in days by entering something called subspace, a layer of reality beneath normal space where the rules were different. For 6,000 years, the Council had used this technology without truly understanding it. They knew how to make it work. They did not know why it worked. Dr. Tanaka wanted to know why. She spent months studying the captured FTL drives, running calculations that filled entire computer systems, testing theories that had never been tested before. Her colleagues thought she was wasting time. The war needed weapons, not theoretical physics. But Tanaka had a feeling she was close to something important. On a cold Tuesday morning, not that days meant much inside Titan, she found it. There was a flaw in subspace. A wrinkle that the Council had never noticed because they had never looked for it. The wrinkle meant that, under the right conditions, matter could skip across subspace without actually traveling through it. Point A to point B, instantly, with no journey in between. Teleportation. Tanaka ran the calculations 17 times. She checked her work obsessively. She asked the facility's AI to verify her math. The answer was always the same. It was possible. Difficult, expensive, power-hungry, but possible. She went to the facility director with shaking hands and a presentation that changed everything. How long to build a working prototype? The director asked. 6 months, Tanaka said. Maybe less if we have enough power cells. You will have everything you need. 5 months and 12 days later, Dr. Tanaka stood in front of a machine that looked like a metal ring connected to a small reactor. On one side of the ring sat an apple, ordinary, red, unremarkable. On the other side of the room, across 30 meters of empty space, sat an empty container. "Beginning test sequence," Tanaka announced. Her voice was calm. Her heart was not. She pressed the button. The apple vanished. There was no flash of light, no dramatic sound. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone. Tanaka ran to the container on the other side of the room. Inside, perfectly intact, sat the apple. The technicians cheered. The director embraced her. Someone was crying. Tanaka picked up the apple and stared at it like it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." But she was already thinking ahead. An apple was just the beginning. The real question was how far they could push this technology. How big an object could they teleport? How far could they send it? She thought about council shipyards. She thought about enemy supply lines. She thought about appearing behind enemy lines without warning and disappearing before anyone could react. She thought about winning the war. "Director," she said quietly, "I need more resources. Much more. What I am about to propose will sound insane, but I need you to listen." The director looked at the apple in her hands and nodded slowly. After what he had just witnessed, he was ready to believe anything. Back on the hidden carrier Defiance, Admiral Chun received a coded message from Titan. He read it 3 times. Then he sat back in his chair and really laughed for the first time in 3 years. His first officer looked at him with concern. "Sir, is everything all right?" Chun handed her the message. "Read it." She read it. Her eyes went wide. "Is this real?" "It is real." Chun stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council believed they had already won. They believed humanity was broken, scattered, dying. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Send a response to Dr. Tanaka," Chun ordered. "Tell her she has everything she needs. Every ship, every resource, every person. Whatever it takes." He smiled a cold, hard smile. "We are going to end this war, and the council will never see us coming." The Chamber of Arbiters had not seen violence in 6,000 years. Its walls were covered with tapestries that told the history of the council's great conquests. Peaceful treaties, the rise of civilizations that had submitted to the Arbiters' rule. Now those tapestries were stained with smoke and blood, and human soldiers stood where no human had ever stood before. Sergeant Santos kept her weapon trained on High Arbiter Zorvan, while her team secured the other arbiters. 12 beings who had ruled the galaxy now knelt on the floor with their hands bound. Some of them wept. Others stared in disbelief. One kept muttering that this could not be happening, that it was impossible, that the humans were supposed to be extinct. Admiral Chun arrived minutes later. His uniform was torn and burned. A cut on his forehead leaked blood down the side of his face. He had taken wounds during the battle for the Outer Ring, but he had refused medical treatment until the mission was complete. He walked slowly through the chamber, looking at each captured arbiter in turn. These were the beings who had ordered Earth burned. These were the beings who had killed billions of his people and called it justice. He had dreamed of this moment for 5 years. He stopped in front of Zorvan. "High Arbiter," he said quietly. "Do you remember what you said when you declared war? On humanity? You said you would burn our worlds and leave nothing. You said you would erase us from history." He leaned closer. "How does it feel to be wrong?" Zorvan met his eyes. The old alien's face was impossible to read. "You have won nothing," he said. "Kill us, and another council will rise. The galaxy will never accept human rule." We do not want to rule. Chum stepped back and activated his communication device. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want the entire galaxy to hear this. His image appeared on screens across the Citadel, across Council space, across worlds that had never seen a human face before. Billions of beings stopped what they were doing and watched. My name is Admiral Marcus Chun of the Terran Republic. I speak to you from the Chamber of Arbiters. The High Arbiters are our prisoners. The Citadel of Accord is under human control. The war is over. He let the words echo across the stars. 5 years ago, the Council tried to destroy us. They burned our homeworld. They killed billions of innocent people. They believed they could exterminate us because we were small and weak and did not matter. His voice hardened. They were wrong. We are still here, and we are no longer asking for permission to exist. He turned to face the captured arbiters. These beings committed crimes against humanity, murder on a scale that has no name. They will face justice, real justice, not the theater of council courts. But we did not come here for revenge. We came here to survive. We came here to end a war that should never have been started. He looked back at the cameras. To every species watching this broadcast, the Council's dominion is finished. You are free. Not free to submit to human rule. We do not want your submission. Free to choose your own path. Free to govern yourselves. Free to be what you were meant to be before the Council told you what you were allowed to be. He paused, and his voice softened. Humanity will rebuild. We will find a new home among the stars. And we will remember what was done to us, not to seek revenge, but to make sure it never happens again, to anyone, ever. The broadcast ended. And across the galaxy, everything changed. The Council's power had always depended on fear of punishment, fear of exclusion, fear of the Arbiter's wrath. With the Arbiters captured, that fear evaporated. Species that had been junior members for millennia looked at what humanity had accomplished and began to ask dangerous questions. If the humans could defy the Council and win, why not us? The Valdaran hegemony blamed the Kethari for failing to prevent the attack. The Kethari blamed the Valdaran for starting the war with humanity in the first place. The Solaran Consortium saw an opportunity and declared independence within a week. Old grudges that had been buried for centuries erupted into fresh conflicts in 3 months. The Council's alliance was unrecognizable. Member species withdrew, formed new alliances, or simply closed their borders and waited to see what would happen next. 6,000 years of galactic order crumbled like a sandcastle in the tide, and humanity watched it all with quiet satisfaction. 1 year later, Earth was still dead. It would take centuries to repair the damage, but humanity had found a new home. A planet in a distant system that they named New Terra. It was smaller than Earth, with strange purple skies and 3 moons, but it was theirs. No council could take it from them. No arbiter could tell them they did not deserve it. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood on a stage in the capital city of New Terra and received an award that had not been given since before the war, the Nobel Prize for Physics. Her work had saved humanity. Her invention had ended the war. She was the most famous human in the galaxy. She accepted the award with a short speech about the importance of curiosity and the danger of accepting limits others placed on you. Then she went back to her laboratory because there was still work to do. The teleportation technology that had won the war could also rebuild civilization. There were problems to solve, improvements to make, a future to build. That was how humans worked. They never stopped reaching for more. Admiral Chun retired from military service on the same day. He was 70 years old now, his hair white, his body marked with scars from battles that would fill history books. He had been offered every honor. The new government could give him statues, holidays, a seat on the ruling council. He had refused them all. I was a soldier, he told the reporters who asked. I did my duty. Now it is time for others to build what we fought for. He spent his retirement in a small house near the ocean on New Terra, watching the strange purple sunsets and reading books about history. Sometimes old friends visited, sometimes he was alone. Either way, he was at peace. But there was one last piece of business. Ambassador Kethra, former ambassador, now a war crimes prisoner awaiting trial, requested a meeting with Admiral Chun. The request sat on Chun's desk for 2 weeks before he decided to grant it. They met in a small room with plain walls and a single window. Kethra looked different than Chun remembered. Smaller, older. The arrogance that had filled his voice when he demanded Earth's surrender was gone. I wanted to ask you something, Kethra said. One question. Then you never have to see me again. Chun nodded. Ask? How? The alien's voice was barely a whisper. We had everything. Numbers, technology, resources, the entire galaxy behind us. You had nothing. A broken fleet, a scattered population. No homeworld, no hope. He leaned forward. How did you win? Chun was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Earth burning. He thought about children growing up in metal corridors. He thought about soldiers who flew into battle knowing they would not return. He thought about Maria Santos walking into the Chamber of Arbiters with fire in her eyes. Finally, he smiled. You counted everything that could be measured. Our ships, our soldiers, our weapons. You calculated the odds and decided we had no chance. He stood and walked to the door. But you never counted the one thing that actually mattered. And what was that? Chun opened the door and paused, looking back at the alien who had once thought humanity could be erased from the stars. Our stubbornness. Humans do not know when to quit. We never have, he shrugged. And honestly, we probably never will. He walked out and did not look back. Outside, the purple sun was setting over New Terra. Children played in the streets. Families sat down to dinner. Scientists worked in laboratories. Artists created new works. Builders raised new structures toward the sky. Life went on as it always did, as it always would. Humanity had survived. Humanity had won. And now, finally, humanity was free to become whatever it wanted to be. The stars were waiting. The council believed the war was almost over. 4 years had passed since Earth burned, and humanity was running out of places to hide. Council patrols swept through human space, hunting the last survivors. Intelligence reports estimated that less than 500 million humans remained alive, scattered across hidden stations and refugee ships. Slowly starving, slowly dying. The reports were wrong. Deep in the asteroid belt, far from any patrol route, the human fleet gathered in secret. 200 warships floated in the darkness, their engines cold, their crews silent. They had been modified over the past year with technology that should not exist. Each ship now carried a teleporter core, a device that could move the entire vessel across space in an instant. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Defiance and looked at the fleet through his viewport. These were the survivors. The stubborn ones. The ones who refused to die no matter how hard the universe tried to kill them. Status report, he said. His first officer checked their screens. All ships report teleporter cores online and stable. Power reserves at maximum. Crews are ready. And Dr. Tanaka? She is on her way to the bridge now. Dr. Tanaka arrived moments later. She looked tired. She had not slept properly in months, but her eyes were bright with excitement. In her hands, she carried a datapad filled with numbers that meant nothing to most people but everything to her. Admiral, she said, we are ready for the first real test. Chun nodded slowly. They had practiced teleportation with small objects and unmanned drones. They had even teleported a shuttle with a volunteer crew across the solar system. But this was different. This was combat. "Tell me the plan again," he said. Tanaka pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. A red dot appeared near the outer rim. The Valden shipyard at Kethra Station. It produces 30 warships per month for the Council fleet. If we destroy it, we cripple their ability to replace losses. She zoomed in on the station. Current defenses include 200 patrol ships and orbital weapon platforms. A conventional attack would be suicide. But we are not attacking conventionally. No, Tanaka smiled. We jump in, fire everything we have, and jump out before they can organize a response. Total time in combat space, less than 90 seconds. Chun looked at his officers. He saw fear in their eyes, but also hope. For 4 years, they've been running, hiding, dying slowly. Now they had a chance to fight back. "Launch the attack," he ordered. The fleet activated its teleporter cores simultaneously. Space stood around them. Reality bent. And then, in the time it took to blink, 200 human warships vanished from the asteroid belt and reappeared on the other side of the galaxy. The Valderan never saw them coming. Railguns fired the moment the human fleet materialized. Tungsten slugs tore through patrol ships that were still trying to understand what was happening. The shipyard's defensive platforms activated, but they were designed to fight enemies approaching from normal space, not enemies that appeared out of nowhere. 73 seconds. That was how long the battle lasted. When it was over, Kethra Station was a field of burning wreckage. 47 patrol ships had been destroyed. The shipyard itself had taken 17 direct hits from railguns and would never build another. Warship. The human fleet teleported away before reinforcements could arrive. News of the attack spread across the galaxy like fire. The Council had no explanation. How had the humans traveled across thousands of light years without being detected? How had they known exactly where to strike? How had they escaped without a single ship being captured? High Arbiter Zorvan demanded answers. His intelligence officers had none to give. They developed some form of stealth technology, one advisor suggested. Perhaps a new type of FTL drive. No drive is that fast, Zorvan replied coldly. Find the truth. Find it now. But the attacks kept coming before they could find anything. A fuel depot in the Soren sector. A communications relay in Kethari space. A weapons factory that supplied plasma torpedoes to the Council fleet. Each time, human ships appeared without warning, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before anyone could respond. The Council called them ghosts. They called them demons. They called them impossible. Admiral Chun called them the beginning. While the Shadow Fleet terrorized Council space, human intelligence operatives were working on something bigger. They had infiltrated Council worlds, posing as members of other species or hiding among slave populations. They gathered information about defenses, patrol routes, and weak points. And they discovered something that changed everything. The Council's power was centralized. 12 High Arbiters ruled from a single location, the Citadel of Accord, a massive station at the center of the galaxy. Every major decision, every military order, every political treaty passed through the Citadel. The Arbiters believed their location made them invincible. No enemy could reach the galactic core without passing through thousands of light years of Council space. But enemies did not need to travel through space anymore. Chun received the intelligence report in his quarters. He read it slowly, carefully, making sure he understood every detail. Then he called a meeting of his senior officers and Dr. Tanaka. The Citadel, he said, placing the station's hologram at the center of the table. Home of the High Arbiters. Heart of the Council's power. He looked around the room. If we destroy it, the Council falls apart. The defenses are substantial, his tactical officer warned. 3,000 warships in permanent orbit, weapon platforms, shield generators. Even with teleportation, we would take heavy losses. I know. Chun's voice was quiet but steady. Many of us will die. Maybe most of us. But if we succeed, if we capture or kill the Arbiters, the Council loses its leadership. Their alliance is held together by fear and tradition. Without the Arbiters, the member species will turn on each other. Tanaka spoke up. There is another problem. To teleport the entire fleet to the galactic core, I need to build a much more powerful device. A Genesis core, I call it. It will take months to construct, and it will only work once. The energy requirements will burn out every teleporter in the fleet. There will be no retreat. Silence filled the room. No retreat. They would either win or die trying. Chun let the silence stretch. Then he spoke. For 4 years, we have survived. We have hidden and run and watched our people die. Earth is gone. Billions are gone. We have nothing left to lose. He stood. I will not order anyone to join this mission. It must be voluntary. But I am going to the Citadel. I am going to end this war. And I am going to show the galaxy that humanity does not break. One by one, his officers stood. No one spoke. No one needed to. Tanaka nodded slowly. I will begin construction of the Genesis core immediately. How long? Chun asked. 3 months. Maybe 4. You have 2. She smiled despite the impossible deadline. Then I had better get started. As the officers filed out, Chun remained at the table, staring at the hologram of the Citadel. Somewhere in that station, High Arbiter Zorvan was planning humanity's extinction. He had no idea that extinction was coming for him instead. Soon, Chun whispered to the empty room. Very soon. The Genesis core hummed with power that could light 1,000 cities. It sat in the heart of the Defiance, surrounded by cables as thick as tree trunks and cooling systems that worked constantly to prevent the device from melting itself. Dr. Tanaka had not slept in 4 days. She had checked every connection, run every diagnostic, and prayed to gods she did not believe in that her calculations were correct. One jump. One chance. Everything humanity had left was about to bet everything on a single throw of the dice. Admiral Chun walked through the corridors of his ship and looked at the faces of his crew. They were young, most of them. Children who had grown up during the war, who had never known Earth, who had lived their entire lives hiding and fighting and watching friends die. They should have been in universities. They should have been falling in love and building careers and dreaming about the future. Instead, they were preparing to die. He stopped at the main hangar, where soldiers were checking weapons and ground assault teams were reviewing their mission objectives. A young sergeant noticed him and snapped to attention. At ease, Chun said. What is your name, soldier? Sergeant Maria Santos, sir. Ground Team 7. Are you ready, Sergeant Santos? She met his eyes without flinching. My grandmother was in Snow Polo when it burned, sir. My parents died defending Earth Station 3. My little brother was on the Horizon's Dream. Her voice did not waver. I have been ready for 5 years. Chun nodded slowly. He had heard similar stories from every soldier in his fleet. Every one of them had lost someone. Every one of them carried grief like a weight in their chest. And every one of them had volunteered for this mission, knowing they would probably not survive. Give them hell, Sergeant. Count on it, sir. 1 hour before the jump, Admiral Chun addressed the fleet. His image appeared on every screen, in every ship. To every soldier and pilot and engineer who had chosen to follow him into the unknown. In 1 hour, he began. We will make the longest jump in human history. We will travel from the outer edge of the galaxy to its very center. We will appear inside the most heavily defended station in the known universe. And we will attack." He paused, letting the words settle. "I will not lie to you. Many of us will die today. Perhaps most of us. The odds are against us. They have always been against us. But we are still here. After everything the Council has done, after Earth, after the colonies, after 5 years of trying to exterminate us, we are still here. And we are still fighting." His voice grew stronger. "The Council thinks we are broken. They think we are scattered and weak and waiting to die. They are wrong. Today we show them what humanity is made of. Today we show the entire galaxy that we do not surrender. We do not give up. We do not go quietly into the night." He raised his fist. "For Earth, for everyone we lost, for the future we're going to build from the ashes of the Council's empire. Today, we win or we die. Either way, we will be free." The fleet roared its response across 1,000 communication channels. The sound was like thunder rolling through space. Chun turned to Dr. Tanaka. "Is the Genesis core ready?" She nodded, her face pale but determined. "Ready. Then let us make history." The jump felt like being torn apart and reassembled in the same instant. Reality twisted inside out. Stars stretched into lines of light and then snapped back into points. Time seemed to stop and then rush forward all at once. And then the citadel of Accord filled the VIEWSCREN. It was enormous. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, a monument to 6,000 years of Council rule. Weapon platforms bristled from its surface like thorns. Thousands of warships orbited it in neat formations. Shield generators hummed with enough power to stop a supernova. And in the middle of it all, appearing from empty space like ghosts made solid, was the human fleet. For 3 precious seconds, the Council defenders did not react. Their sensors screamed warnings that made no sense. Ships appearing from nowhere, inside the defense perimeter, inside the heart of the Empire. It was impossible. Those 3 seconds cost them dearly. "Fire everything," Chun ordered. The human fleet erupted. Railguns launched tungsten slugs at speeds that turned metal into weapons of mass destruction. Missiles screamed toward weapon platforms. Laser batteries carved burning lines across. Council warships that were still trying to raise shields. The first wave of defenders died before they understood what was happening. Then the chaos truly began. Council ships scrambled to respond. Orders flew across communication channels, contradicting each other, creating confusion. Some ships moved to engage the human fleet. Others moved to protect the citadel. Some did nothing, their crews paralyzed by shock. The human fleet did not give them time to organize. Ships teleported in micro-jumps, appearing on one side of the battle and vanishing to appear on another. Council gunners could not track targets that refused to stay in one place. Defense systems designed to fight conventional warfare proved useless. Against enemies who could be anywhere, the Defiance led the charge toward the citadel itself. Enemy fire hammered its shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Damage reports flooded in from every section of the ship. Chun ignored them all. "Get us to the outer ring," he commanded. "Ground teams, prepare for deployment." The Defiance plowed through a wall of defensive fire and slammed into the citadel's outer ring like a battering ram. Metal screamed against metal. The ship's bow crumpled, but it created what Chun needed: a breach. "Ground teams, go!" Hundreds of soldiers in powered armor poured through the breach into the citadel. They moved in coordinated groups, cutting through station security with brutal efficiency. The goal was not to hold territory. The goal was to reach the Chamber of Arbiters at the station's core. Sergeant Santos led her team through corridors that had never seen combat. Council guards tried to stop them and died trying. She had trained for this moment her entire life. Every step brought her closer to the beings who had ordered her family's deaths. Outside, the battle raged. Human ships fell by the dozens. The Council was recovering, organizing its defense, bringing overwhelming numbers to bear. But the human fleet kept fighting, kept bleeding the enemy, kept buying time for the ground teams. Admiral Chun watched the casualty reports climb. So many good people dying. So many ships burning. He pushed the grief aside. There would be time to mourn later, if there was a later. Ground Team 7 has reached the inner ring, his tactical officer reported. They are approaching the chamber. How many teams left? 3. The others were. The officer hesitated. The others did not make it. Chung closed his eyes briefly. Tell them to finish it. Whatever it takes. In the Citadel's core, Sergeant Santos and her team reached a massive door made of metal that had never been breached. Behind it sat the 12 High Arbiters, the rulers of the galaxy, the beings who had condemned humanity to death. She placed charges on the door and stepped back. Fire in the hole. The explosion echoed through the station. The door fell, and Maria Santos, granddaughter of a woman who had died in Snow Paulo, daughter of soldiers who had died defending their people, sister of a boy who had been murdered on a cargo ship, Maria Santos walked into the Chamber of Arbiters with her weapon raised. High Arbiter Zorvan looked up at her with ancient eyes. He had lived 400 years. He had crushed rebellions and commanded fleets and ruled over trillions of beings. He had never seen a human up close before. He saw fear in the soldiers around him, the fear of beings who had just realized they were no longer in control. But in the eyes of this small, fragile human standing in his doorway, he saw something else. He saw the end of everything he had built. High Arbiter Zorvan, Santos said, her voice steady. You are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Resist, and you die. Surrender, and you live to face justice. For the first time in 400 years, Zorvan felt something he had forgotten existed. Fear.